Hello, I'm Martin Smith and this is your UFX Markets Week in Review. Today we'll cover some of the major events of the past week and discuss how they impact the global currency markets. The euro rose for the second week in a row against the US dollar. The shared currency rose by 0.28% on the week. The euro-dollar pair was last trading at 143.96. While the euro extended gains against the dollar, the greenback trimmed losses versus the yen on Friday as US stocks rallied late in the morning session. Downgrades of the US debt seemed to temporarily lift the dollar. The US dollar posted its fourth weekly drop versus the Japanese currency. The dollar-yen pair extended losses, declined by 2.22% on the week and closed at 76.78. It was the lowest level for the CAD on Friday since mid-month. Canada's dollar weakened on concern that the US economy, the central destination for Canadian exports, is declining amid political deadlock delays to raising the US government spending. A Statistics Canada statement showed that the Canadian economy unexpectedly weakened in May by the most in 2 years. A report next week may show the nation's employers added fewer jobs in June. However, the Canadian dollar did end up rising just slightly on the week by 0.77% to close at 0.9548. The pound sterling rose to a 7-week high versus an all-round weaker US dollar on Friday after data showed indifferent US growth, while talks in Washington, D.C. on a deal to raise the debt ceiling before the August 2nd deadline stay deadlocked. The pound's gains against the dollar emulated those by the Eurozone currency, which improved from earlier falls after Moody's threatened to cut Spain's credit rating and the country's PM called for early elections on Friday. The pound-dollar pair ran into steady profit-taking at higher levels and was last trading against the US dollar at 164.23. It gained 0.77% this week. In commodities now, crude oil declined this week, capping its first weekly drop since last month as the US economy grew less than was expected in its second quarter, and a stalemate of US Congress over raising the debt limit further threatened expansion. Crude oil dropped dramatically by 4.18% this week and closed at $95.70 a barrel. Gold rose to a record $1,637.50 an ounce on demand for an investment safe haven amid continual US and European debt concerns. The precious metal pulled off a solid week of consecutive gains, finishing the week up 1.62% and was last trading at $1,626.70 per ounce. Probably the biggest story of the week, and the one with the most economic impact, was the gloomy GDP report. The UK economy has grown by just 0.7% over the last year. That's the lowest year-versus-year growth since the beginning of last year, when the United Kingdom came out of a recession. The Japanese tsunami and the royal wedding altogether knocked around 0.5% off GDP growth in the second quarter, according to the ONS. This suggests the UK will most likely not hit its growth targets this year. Well, that's all we have time for today. I hope you've enjoyed this week's review, and I hope you'll join us next week. Until then, be sure to visit us at ufxmarkets.com for all of your online trading needs. For UFX Markets, I'm Martin Smith. Good luck and happy trading.